The world of roguelikes is vast and varying, and it is my job to review it. Hello everyone, I am the Roguelike Reviewer, and happy Spooky Month! In celebration, I thought we would check out a horror roguelike today. And man, have I found a doozy for you. Today we will be looking at Cosmodread, a VR horror roguelike where you must escape from a desolate ship full of monsters. While originally I went into this mainly with the goal of finding a spooky game for the season, I ended up finding a game I had a really good time with. Surprisingly, there are actually not that many horror roguelikes, the main ones that come to mind being Inscription or Darkest Dungeon, neither of which being full-on horror games. They just have more horror elements. Darkest Dungeon definitely being the more horrific of the two. This one, however, fully leans into being a horror game first and roguelike second, which allows it to offer its own unique experience for those who want this sort of thing. Now, let's dive in. Starting out with gameplay. After attempting to land on a ship mid-lightspeed jump, brilliant plan from our protagonist, you awaken in a dark room, alone, with minimal resources and the objective to find the courtyard. As you awaken, you discover quickly that you need to gather oxygen, as the ship is non-functional. Nothing else is really told to you though, as you wander around and have to figure things out on your own. I actually really like this cold open, as you don't really know what lurks in the darkness, or what remains of the crew, forcing you to explore and discover for yourself what is going on. There will be audio logs left around by the crew, which tells you what went down, and can even give you tips to survive, such as the monsters not liking light. But with only a few spawning each run, it is truly on you to figure out ways to survive. And you better find out quick, because with all this weird, fleshy stuff on the walls, you are definitely not alone. The game does a great job of having enough to go off of to figure out what you need to do, but never really giving you quite enough to feel comfortable, which, as the game's name implies, fills you with dread. There are plenty of times I would walk up to a door, hear a roar, and then nope the hell out of there. And with enemies that look like they were created from whatever spare body parts were lying around, I wouldn't really blame you for doing the same thing. The only time I ever really felt comfortable with these enemies was after a few hours of gameplay, which is when you would have learned all the easy ways to delete their existence, or avoiding them altogether. These enemies ranging from your basic zombie to the meatball of death. And don't you dare underestimate the meatball. It is easily the thing that killed me most. Even the ship itself wants you dead in this game, as there are turrets everywhere that are programmed to shoot on sight. Doesn't matter what either, you and the flesh demons are all on the shoot on sight list. Oh right, and before I forget, if you ever happen to look out into space, you'll eventually notice the giant evil space squid looming over the whole ship. If you didn't want to leave the ship ASAP before, you certainly would now. Which brings us back to our primary goal. Make the ship functional just enough to jump back to Earth and GTFO. Will this potentially just doom Earth? Who cares? I just want to live! To aid in this goal, the courtyard also comes equipped with a fabricator, letting you use the garbage lying around to make helpful things. You do unfortunately have to collect the blueprints during your runs to build with, but they are permanently unlocked whenever you do get one. So while initially not super helpful, after a few runs you'll definitely be making a few stops here. Each section of the ship also houses an objective, those being the navigation room, engine room, and bridge, which you'll have to carefully tread to and fix to get home. You can do this in a few ways as well, as stealth is just as viable as run and gun tactics. While I personally prefer the latter, you can pretty easily just sneak past enemies with their back turned, or even chuck a can to the other side of the room as a distraction. And for those of you who are really crafty, you can even set traps, such as luring your enemies to turrets, or shooting a gas can to make it explode. Do mind your distance if you decide to explode the cans though, as it's a pretty sizable explosion. Learning how to use all your tools effectively is very satisfying, And after you learn more about your gear and enemies, it becomes much easier to reach the end. Speaking of, spoiler warning, as I will be talking about the end of the game next. With your route set and engine on, it's time to warp home. Finally, after many attempts, we have done it. We just have to walk over to our docked ship and get out of here. We've seen every enemy quite a few times. Hell, we've even killed them all, at least once. Surely, it will be a nice, easy walk over. I even cleared out most of the path there. What was that roar? This was my exact thoughts at the end of the game, as it showed up. At this point, I had been jump scared by every enemy countless times, and was only really scared of the meatball and locker crawlers. But the cosmonaut, a creature I heard about in passing, was not determined to let me leave. And man, is this thing terrifying. This was the perfect way to end the game for me. One last hurrah from the flesh demons, a creature I had yet to face and had no clue on how to beat it. I panicked so hard, I literally blew myself up once trying to stop it. Now this by itself would be a great way to spend a few hours, but if you want to, they also offer some challenges for you to try, like the Pacifism Challenge, which removes all weapon spawns, or Arachnophobia Mode, which makes only crawlers spawn. There is even one that the only way to defend yourself is using traps. And of course, there is always the lore to uncover. Speaking of, let's talk about that. As previously stated, you will find logs scattered around left by the former crew of the ship. With these, we learn that this ship was used to study Phobos, a moon of Mars, as it was discovered to be of alien origin. Upon investigation, the first crew becomes psychotic and ends up killing each other. But instead of taking this as a sign to leave it be, more crews were sent to discover artifacts and learn more. As a result, the ship's jump drive is made, which allows it to travel faster than light. One day, the drive just activates on its own and warps far away, catching our protagonist in the process. While we were safely recovering, the crew was struggling to repair the ship and fend off the fleshy horrors, many of which being discovered to be made of missing crewmates. One of the scientists ends up realizing that the jump was likely done on purpose, likely to have been caused by whatever the evil space squid outside is. With this realization, they decided to sabotage repairs, in hopes that only the ship's crew will be victims of this beast. A plan that would have worked, if it wasn't for us. I knew this was a bad idea, but like I said, we just want to live. To hell with everyone else. It's a pretty cliche situation, and one that many would likely be able to guess, including me. However, I've always found it interesting to see how someone else would handle said cliches. I'm probably in the minority there, but I do really find the small differences very interesting. And honestly, while this pertains more to the gameplay than the lore, I kinda like that it's intuitive to know what's going on. While it is important for horror games to have this confusion and not really knowing what's lurking in the corridors, this is still a game at the end of the day. One that you need to piece together how to play and win, which is made more difficult when most of the things that tell you what is going on are random spawns. So I think it can get away with being a bit more cliche. Regardless though, I still find the game very scary. There were many times where I would see something moving in the dark, or a roar from behind a door, and just turn and leave. The monsters and sound design especially are very well done here. The ambience does a fantastic job of making you feel like you are on a desolate ship, as well as VR itself lending it to be more scary, as everything is right in your face. While sure, the monsters will likely not be too scary after a few runs, maybe even being a tad goofy when the initial fear of the unknown wears off. But what horror game doesn't have this issue? For those of you looking for a unique horror experience to celebrate the season that has a healthy dose of the roguelike genre baked in, this is certainly a great game to pick up, as I've certainly enjoyed my time with it. With that, I give this game a 7.8 out of 10. It was very fun delving into this game, as I don't typically play horror games, but with the VR clunkiness and cliche story, while fine, do hold it back from being a perfect game. Thanks for watching, If you enjoyed the video or have any recommendations, please let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, if you could like the video and subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you fellow rogues in the next review. See ya.